Okay, hi everyone. So welcome to Securing Vibe Coding. So this talk will see how to address the security challenges that we'll have potentially for using vibe coding. So at first, just a quick question. Who here has already used AI to write code in this week? Just raise your hands. Cool. Can you just mention which tool, just to have an idea, which tool are you using? Coso, okay, and others. Cool, okay. So today we're going to go through the fundamentals of vibe coding, because maybe some of you don't know what vibe coding is. I'm going to go through the value proposition of vibe coding and the limitations as well. And then obviously, because that's a security talk, so we're going to go through the security challenges as some of the best practices to vibe code securely. So, some people might be thinking, vibe coding, what is it? Let's start with just a meme. I love vibe coding, so you might think it's just chill music and coffee. Well, it's not exactly this. If we're going through the definition and who actually coined the term, did you know who coined the term? Yes. So Andrei Karpathy, and this is quite new actually, this was back in February 2025. And that's the definition, the pure definition of vibe coding. So if we go through his definition, he's stating that it's a new kind of coding that he's calling vibe coding, where you fully give in the vibes, you embrace exponentials, you forget that the code even exists. So it's quite a mood actually, just when you code, just accept all the code that the editor is giving you, not even reviewing it, you're not reading it. So that's the entire mood for that. So this is basically what you're doing, is just chilling and not really understanding what the code, how does the code work? Don't have no idea. But that's the pure idea of vibe coding. I've seen that we could actually define 3 different buckets for those for vibe coding. So the first on the spectrum, the first one would be the pure viber. So this is the definition from Andrei, which is considering the throwaway weekend projects that you have. This is adopted by non-programmers, hobbyists, entrepreneurs. They want to generate MVPs projects. And here the user will trust the AI output. They're not going to read it, they're not going to understand, they're not going to debug the underlying code. And this is more the prototype hobbyism thing. And as you can see, this is democratizing the software creation, and obviously it's unsuitable for production environments. The one that you potentially are doing, this is what I call the pro-AI assisted development, which is the accelerator. So this is a more disciplined approach employed by experienced developers. I will actually call it the AI coding, not the vibe coding. So AI is used as an assistant to accelerate the workflows. So if you want to generate boilerplates, write complex functions, if you want to create unit tests, automate redundant and repetitive tasks. That's more the discipline approach. And then you have the danger zone, this is like the pure vibe philosophy that potentially could bleed in the enterprise settings. This is the nightmare for all the CISO and security team. So the teams that might be driven by speed, they'll use AI to build and ship production-grade application with little to no human review, understanding, or accountability. So what is the value proposition and the limitations? So let's have a look to better understand vibe coding. So in terms of benefits, I'm pretty sure because you've been using AI coding, so you can see a lot of the benefits. We can see that it's good for doing rapid prototyping, ideation. So it can take actually days instead of, it can take hours, instead of days to create an application. It helps you to do everything around the boilerplate code creation. It makes also development a little bit more accessible for a non-technical person. It's also a good way to learn a bit more about coding. And obviously there's also all the things around automation. So a lot of benefits. What about the limitations? So there's a lot of limitations, and we're going to go through some of them. So the first one is the context window restriction. I'm going to come back to that one. Hallucinations, as you can imagine, as well. The training cutoff dates. Those are things that usually we don't take into account, but we need to take this into account. The quality of the generated code is inconsistent. Sometimes it can be great, sometimes it could be problematic. And obviously for complex enterprise applications, I'm pretty sure some of you who did AI coding, you can hit some limited understanding from the AI models. So let's go through a few of the security challenges. first one is usually that AI often generates insecure coding patterns and practices, and particularly when you don't explicitly prompt for security. We've been talking about prompt engineering, but prompting is really important. I'm going to come back to this one because this is a really important one. AI-generated code typically lacks security-focused testing unless you specifically request it within your prompt as well. And also there's the overconfidence in the validity of AI outputs, and there's what we're calling the authority bias that will lead the developers to trust everything that the LLM will output, because it's come apparently from authoritative source. So if you're asking what is a good starting point to actually have a sense of security within vibe coding and AI coding, I would say that a good starting point might be the OWASP top 10 for LMs. This is the second iteration. There's a few interesting categories here that we could have a look at. So supply chain, as you can imagine, with hallucinations of packages, sensitive information disclosure, because sometimes you might be seeing API keys pushed or created by the LMs and pushed to production. Misinformation. This will include everything over reliance, for example. This goes back to the authoritative bias. Going back to hallucinations, has any of you had that experience of the model hallucinated some of in the output? Cool. So there's actually new attack vectors. One of them is called slop squatting. So this slop squatting is quite interesting here. So on this side, you will have both the malicious user and normal user prompt the LLM to generate code. On one hand, you'll have the malicious user coming back with the code, and it's mentioning whatever package. This package doesn't exist, but the malicious user will take this opportunity to create the malicious package and register it legitimately in the registry. The user will actually prompt and have the same package, which was not supposed to exist because it has been hallucinated, but now the malicious user has actually already registered the package. So it's going to download the package, and now it has a malicious package downloaded in his code base. So this is a new attack vector. This is called slop squatting. Another issue with these LMs is there are people pleasers by design. So they do have a tendency to confidently produce solutions, even if they might be insecure. And another one, if you ask for something and not visible, many AI systems will comply rather than challenge. And this could also lead to prompt injection. And you had a question with prompt injection. We do have a couple of lessons on Snyk Learn. This is entirely free. If you want to learn a bit more about prompt injection, I would recommend you to do the learning path and some of the lessons here. Another risk is shadow AI. Who here is familiar with shadow AI term? Okay. Who here knows about shadow IT? Okay, so shadow IT is the same as shadow AI, but as a definition, this would be the unauthorized use of AI coding tools in an organization. So usually you would have the InfoSec team and your IT team that have a list of vetted tools, and if you're using a tool that is not included in this list, this would be part of shadow AI. Sorry. There's a risk of data leakage through prompts because developers might inadvertently actually share algorithms, proprietary code, sensitive information with those external AI systems. And as you can imagine, this is increasing the attack surface of the organization as well. If you're not familiar with shadow AI, I did write a couple of articles. I'll happily share the resources at the end. You can just ask me questions at the end of the session. Just want to take a break here and share with you a few horror stories. Because you might be thinking, actually, I did vibe coding, it was great. But some people try vibe coding and it didn't go well. So I do have a story here with a different act. So act 1. There's one person on Twitter who actually shared the full story, and here you can see that person said, and he was actually taunting people who were negative about vibe coding. So people were saying you can't really build a SaaS with AI, people won't gonna pay for that, it's full of bugs. So he did try. He used Cursor. He's not a technical person, as he's mentioning here, and people apparently are paying for his new SaaS, which is good for him. The thing is, Act 2, and we're on Twitter, and because he was a little bit pedantic and criticizing vibe coding, people started to actually test his application. So as you can see, someone is trying to find security vulnerabilities in my app, clearly with no good intention. I've got an encrypted message for you. So here you can see people sending message, please don't vibe codes integrated into his DB. Also, he said that he was lucky to vibe code his way out of a cyber attack. At least he think he did. This is great. I would like to vibe code my way out of a cyber attack. I don't know how he did it, but yeah, I'll have a look at his MAA. Act 3, guys, I'm under attack. Ever since I started to share how I build my SaaS using Cursor, there are random things that are happening. So here, if you're a developer or security practitioner, you know exactly what did happen. Maxed out usage on the API keys, potentially hard-coded secrets when he pushed on to production. People bypassing the subscription, creating random stuff on DB. As you know, I'm not technical, so this is taking me longer than usual to figure out. So for now, he said he's all stopped sharing what he's doing publicly on X. There's just some weird people out there. Final act, half the internet is trying to break my app just for sharing publicly a mistake I made. Apparently they're doing this for fun. So he decided to shut down his application. Lesson learned, he learned the hard way here. You guys were right, I shouldn't have deployed the secret code to production. There are also some nice people that he tried to help him for the past 2 days, because all of this story actually happened on the span of 2 days. But actually he decided to rebuild the SaaS with a different tech stack. But this was just an example of how vibe coding can go wrong. Another one here we have, okay, someone is attacking my database with 1,000 new signups per 5 minutes. Bro, can you please not do that? Thanks. As you can imagine. Here. So also, others have been quite opinionated about vibe coding, and they're saying that vibe coding might be a scam. Some of them tried vibe coding for a couple of days, and this is why it's a scam. Maybe you're sharing this opinion, maybe you do have another opinion. So some of this is, I didn't learn anything. It doesn't generate great codes. AI can't fix every bug. Maybe you've also been stuck in this infinite loops when you're trying to debug. And this is just an example of some of the build logs, and you have a lot of errors. You don't know what is happening, because if you're non-technical and you haven't read the code, you don't really know what is happening behind the scene. It's not fun. It was fun at first because it was working, but then it's not working because when you're adding more features, actually breaking all code, so then you're back to the infinite loop. And then he's saying, I feel like a worse engineer. So this is some of the feedback also that some developers are having. And some security researcher also scanned for fun some websites. And here you have the security researchers scan 2,000 vibe-coded websites, as you can imagine, keys everywhere. And I actually did have a look on GitHub. This only took me a couple of minutes. I just looked for the OpenAI API key. Yeah, as you can see. So let's have a look at how we would secure AI coding practices by adding guardrails. So some best practices, really this is the baseline. So the first thing would be to do mandatory code review just to make sure that you pay special attention to some of the security patterns. Have automated security scanning by using tools to cover this. Also dependency validation protocols. This might also prevent slob squatting that I've mentioned earlier. Define boundaries for AI usage. Just know what types of code can be generated using those AI tools, and that should record additional developments. And also record documentation just to cover what components you've been created with AI. Also, a few things that will actually help. You could also have a look at MCP. So this is Bubble Context Protocol. This is a protocol that has been created by Anthropic. And this will enable the AI to access a little bit more contextual information that will go beyond directly what you've put it on the prompt. And by adding context, actually, also one thing to be mindful is the token limits. I'll come back to the context windows and the token limits. You're ensuring that all of your security requirements are not dropped due to context windows constraints. If you're not familiar with MCP, because I don't have time to explain everything, we do have a few articles that is covering the topic as well. I can share it happily at the end of this session. And also, going back to file inclusion, when you're using Cursor, Windsurf, you can also add those files to actually give a little bit more context around architecture, tech stack, security, all the rules that you want to put to give a little bit more context to the idea. I've mentioned prompt engineering. So another one is security prompt engineering. So you could actually spend some time and focus on security prompt templates where you can prioritize secure coding practices. So here, for example, this is a simple prompt. Create a user login function that takes an email and password, checks if they match what's in the database, and returns a success message or error. This is quite generic prompts. You might have some surprise in the output. If you want something a little bit more secure, you can think about a prompt like this. So create a user login function that will take email and password parameters, that will implement rate limitings, that will follow the OS authentication best practices and others. So if you do have some documentation security requirements, you can actually also put through the prompts you have what we call security prompts more focused. The knowledge cutoff consideration. So as you might know, all current AI models, they do have a knowledge cutoff date. This is a point after which they don't have information. So they'll be unaware of all the latest security vulnerabilities, patches, or best practices. So you always need to check all your AI-generated code against your current security best practices, documentations. And also AI models can gaslight you. And I had the experience of that. So I was actually coding an application. I was using Gemini, and Gemini is quite good, actually, but at some point I wanted to prettify the front end, so I was asking, just give me some CSS framework that I could use to prettify the application. So I came back with Chakra. I was like, fine. Okay, let's use Chakra. But I actually had a look at the documentation, and it was funny because the components that it was actually referring to didn't exist in the documentation that I had in front of me. So I kind of challenged Gemini, saying, I don't see those components. So it came back, and you can see this is when you click on the little arrow to have the thought process. So you can see acknowledge the user diligence in checking the documentation. Thank you, Gemini. Gently correct the user interpretation, explain that the link they provided is a high-level concept page. This was the component page. It wasn't a high-level page, but okay, Gemini. Point them to the correct section to this page. Okay, I copy-paste this page and I'll keep it on the other side. Reassure them that all the components do exist. They don't exist, but that's fine. Confirm that the code that you provided is correct, and ask if they can recheck the specific component documentation. I did it, Gemini. It was a 404 page, it doesn't exist. So the thing is, because Gemini, this version, actually had the version of Chakra up to version 2, and here, as you can see, this is version 3. So that's why we're just not speaking the same language at some point. And this is just an example of all the cutoff dates for different models, as you can see here. So this is also something that you need to keep in mind. Obviously, there's also some developers' skills that we need. So security in AI coding will depend on human oversight. So some of the skills that we need, for example, we need strong code reading and comprehension skills that are really important. Debugging, obviously, actually some of you did have spent some time debugging the code that the AI generated. Also, the developer must understand the target architecture to also evaluate if the code, the output, aligns with your system-wide security principles. And developers need the ability to critically evaluate the AI recommendations. Do not blindly trust what the AI is giving you. So let's consider what are the future of secure AI coding and some of the new classes of challenges. So I reference token economics and context windows. You might be wondering what she's talking about. So token economics and context windows, this is the technical limitations with all of the models. So usually the models are trained with tokens. They're the chunk of text that the AI models will process. And all of the models, they all have limits depending on the specific AI being used. So the more complex, the bigger, broader your application is. So for example, imagine that you try to understand a complex system, but just looking at a few files. You don't have the full picture, you're just having a couple of files. And also some developers, to bypass this limitation, will might have some solutions. So for example, they will summarize through the prompt, so it's not giving the full picture, so you don't have access to the full code base, or just includes a selection of the files. So this strategy can include some security critical information. And there's also a new trend. So we've been talking about prompt engineering, but now we're talking about context engineering. Also, this is, as I mentioned, with the file inclusion, with MCP, also with this, taking into account the context windows, you have this kind of new skill to have. This is an example with Claude. So here with Claude 3.7, you can see that the context windows is 200,000 token. It's the same for Claude 4. Also didn't increase the context window. But if you're wondering what is it, so when you actually ask a question or do a prompt, you have the input, and then the answer obviously is the output, which will actually goes back to turn 2 when you're actually prompting a second time. This will actually build up and will eat every time the context window. So this is just if you prompt it with a few questions. But imagine if you're actually adding tools, if you're using with the extended thinking, this is actually adding to the context window. So the context window will be ifing quite quicker in this sense. Another thing to take into account is how you would secure agentic AI. So this is also introducing new challenges around agent-to-agent communication, and Google actually covered this with their new protocol, agent-to-agents. So there are a lot of security considerations for autonomous agents that are still new and emerging, but they are actually requiring special attentions. So also for this, if you're not aware of what is agent-to-agents, we do have some documentation as well, but I don't have time to explain everything, so yeah. Also, we're talking about governance. So securing AI coding requires strong organization governance, and some of the key things to do is to develop explicit AI coding policies. This is to help you clarifying when and how your AI tools can be used. Make sure to maintain a list of approved tools. This goes back to shadow AI. Make sure that you also do have established training requirements for developers to understand the benefits and limitations of these tools, and integrates AI governance. There's a couple of frameworks. So here you have Gartner framework, and on the other side you have the NIST framework. This is just an example of a couple of frameworks that you might be using. Cool, so in conclusion, let's have a look at some takeaways and a couple of resources. So our key takeaways. The goal of this talk is not to prevent AI coding, it's just to make sure that you secure it properly and know how to use it. Because we all know that AI coding is representing a fundamental shift, just not a new tool. And there are security implications. We've seen some new attack vectors, as well as some risk. And also looking forward, there might be also new governance frameworks that will be essential as these technologies evolve. So some strategic recommendations, just a quick checklist if you're a security leader or developer. Make sure to develop explicit AI coding guidelines. Make sure to focus on security-focused prompt engineering, just as a core competency. Also implement verification pipelines. This could be already implemented in your CI/CD pipeline, regardless of where it's coming, if it's from Stack Overflow, your developer, AI tool, just make sure to have it covered into your pipeline. Make sure also to create a training program focused on secure AI usage, and also make sure to monitor emerging threats. I was mentioning stop squatting, I'm pretty sure there will be new attack vectors in the coming months. This is just an example with Windsurf and having a security tool embedded into your IDE. So here we do have an example, quick example with Snyk code. So here I was prompting really basic application, create an Express application that will just render a page. And here, as you can see, well, without actually the security tool, I wouldn't have that visibility. But having a Snyk code actually flagged that as a cross-site scripting, here this, what is it, maybe 100 lines of code. So a good thing that we're having a security tool embedded into your IDE to give that visibility and catch it from start. So quick resources, as I mentioned, Snyk if you want to upskill on the OS top 10 for LMs and GenAI. Also, I did write a few handbooks on AI and cybersecurity and return on investments of these tools. If you want to read those are all free on Free Code Camp, I can also share the links after this session. Oh, sorry, if you want to take pictures. And the last one, I did create a couple of modules on TryHackMe. If you're not aware of what is TryHackMe, this is security online educational platform. Those modules are free, and this is covering Snyk open source and Snyk code. You're following Jessica. She's a security engineer, and she's tasked by her CISO to implement security tools. So here you have a few examples with GenAI, return on investment, security champions, CI/CD pipeline, DevOps-Exchange, and this is a little bit more hands-on if you want to have a go with that. Cool, so I'm Sonya Moisset, I'm staff AI security advocate at Snyk. I'm passionate about DevOps, AI, and cybersecurity. I do a few things outside of Snyk, but if you want to connect, you can do so on LinkedIn at Sonya Moisset. And yeah, thank you for listening.